That's not even the worst of it. Those are the pictures I allow everybody to see, but it did get much worse than that. But thanks to Dr. Kim, she's got me back to normal again, and my life is 100% much better. My journey started probably about 10 years ago. I think I knew I had it way before that time, but I didn't do anything about it. I kind of ignored it. I was pretty fit. I worked out. I had life was great. And just started noticing little things, getting a little hyper, probably a little irritable, couldn't sleep at night. Started getting comments from family and friends that I was starting to behave a little differently, getting a little bit more erratic in my behavior. The whole time I'm thinking, I'm fine. I don't know what you're all talking about. I'm losing weight. I thought that was great. And then it got, I guess, really bad about the time my son said, I think we're going to do a drug intervention here because you're just acting really weird. And come to find out, it wasn't that. It's just nobody knew that I had thyroid issues or Graves disease. And so one night I came home from work and I had taken some aspirin. Always taken aspirin all my life, and this time it landed me on the floor. My son found me unconscious, and then they got me into the hospital, and that's when I was told that I had Graves' disease. And at that time, I thought, oh my God, I was mortified. But what I didn't know at that time was that I thought it was going to be something like a matter of months, that my life was going to get back to normal. I'd be, fixed, and everything would be great. Well, it ended up being like 10 years later, and I'm one of those anomalies, everything that did, and I was misdiagnosed. I had volumes of doctors and trials and tribulations. We tried everything and anything, and everything that they prescribed was always the worst for me. So I had to go through all that, and what I couldn't get through all this process was, when am I going to be back to normal? And everything they did, it just made it worse. So we did the radiation, we did all the medications, I tried all the homeopathic treatments, I was online. And when your family doesn't know and you're going through this, you're thinking, the whole time I thought I was losing it. I really thought I was going to lose it. And I'd go through deep, severe depressions. And I wasn't getting much help from my doctors, and I didn't know anybody who was going through it. I did go online, and there was, at the time, very little information, and what I read kind of really scared me. You almost had to become your own advocate. And all I just kept reading was that, you just got to keep asking questions, you got to keep telling your doctors, and I would, and every time I would talk to them, they would say, well, you're just getting older. It's just that you got to accept that you're just getting older. And I was like, no. Prior to this, I'd always been healthy. I know my body. I knew how I looked, and when it got at its worst, I remember I had some family come to see me, and my mother looked at me, and when I saw her break down and that she couldn't recognize me, and it was worse than this, I knew something was really wrong, and that's when I started thinking I had to be, my own advocate. And I started doing some research. I was at Valley Medical, I did Kaiser. All of them kept just shutting me down. Throughout this process, my vision was just deteriorating. It got so bad that it was like looking through a kaleidoscope. So I could never tell in a day when my vision was going to go off. It would just be constantly like this. And the only time I could stop that kaleidoscope movement was to cover one eye. So I had to drive with one eye, or people had to drive me to and from work. And that was going on for 2 years because I couldn't drive. I didn't know when it would stop just close enough where I could see one before it would do this again. And so I had a couple, in that time, near accidents. I thought I had almost hit a kid, and it was just getting really, really bad. I was getting frustrated with what everybody was telling me. And then one night, I just got this, go on the web, see what you can find. And I did. I found Dr. Cockrum's website. I started reading about all the things that she had done. I went to go see her. By that time, I was employed by an employer with great benefits, and I became somewhat of the poster child for this company because they saw me at my worst, and then they now see me at my best. But during this, I'd run into many friends that knew me back when, and I know that every time I'd see them, they'd look at me and they'd start, oh my God, what happened to you? You used to be so beautiful, and now look at you. We don't even recognize you. And it was almost like like she deserves it because she was so pretty back then, and now she's like all of us. We're all suffering. You know, she gets to suffer now, knows what it's like, and to some degree that's true. I mean, before this illness, life was easy for me. I could get a job anywhere. You know, your looks and how you look, your appearance is very important, and it was for me. And a lot of this was my value at that time, and I had to go through this journey to appreciate what I had and what I lost, and you know what I got back today. And when I was looking for work and I looked like that, nobody would give me a job. I don't care how smart or what experience. I mean, before I could just look in front, and no matter if I knew the job or I was capable of doing it, they gave it to me because I looked the part. And what I used to do is I interfaced with a lot of customers. I was in sales, marketing, and so I was always the company face. But then you go out there and you're looking for work, nobody would give me a job, nobody would give me a chance. And by the grace of God, I did get employed again with Cisco Systems. Ironically, it was with a director that I'd met a year prior to that, and he remembered and he hired me. And then with that, with having great benefits, I was able to start the recovery. But when you're going through the journey, nobody tells you. You know, I just thought it would be, we can just fix this, it'll be done, it's over with. It just took such a big chunk of my life. It still does to this day. But I believe that the reason why I went through this is now fast forward. I always ask myself, why did I have to go through this? Is that, you know, now at Cisco, being that spokesperson, I've been able to touch so many people's lives out there. We've had these presentations at Cisco, and so many of them have friends of friends, and so I'm networking with other people from other companies, with Sun or IBM, who are suffering and going through you know, the starting process, and they'll come to me asking me questions. Who do I go to? What do I do? You know, and I'm hoping that what I went through, I'm able to help others and save them. You know, what I went through, so that they don't have to reduce themselves. You know, there were 2 times in my life, and I don't say this with a lot of pride, but you know, you do get yourself so down, and especially for somebody like me, I'm very vain, and when I'm looking in the mirror and I don't recognize the person, and I'm hearing, you're never, you know, accept it, you're getting old, you're never gonna have your life back. You know, I lost my vision, I was at the height of my career, I lost a lot. And you get yourself so down, and I know I tried twice to take my life. And the next morning I'd wake up and I would almost be mad at God, because I'd be like, why are you putting me through this hell? I don't need this. What did I do to deserve it? Today I can honestly say that I had to go through that to be able to talk to the people, to let them know that there is hope. There are people who do listen, and with time and you know, going through this journey, the process, and everybody's journey is different. But I know that I had to go through this so that I can show, look, I went through it. People aren't you afraid of surgery? You might lose your sight. Yeah, I had no sight. What am I going to lose now? So I went through it. Blind? I was blind before. So I took that chance, and I can see again. And Dr. Kim did a great job. I mean, when I talked to her, I showed her my pictures. I go, this is the person I used to be. I know I'm getting older, and I'm going to look like this person as I get older, but this person doesn't look like her. And she was able to take those pictures, and she did a really good job of pretty much putting me back to normal again. I mean, people now that don't know my story or my journey, they don't know any different. They'll look and they go, oh yeah, that's Susanne from high school, or from whatever career, or wherever I was with whatever company. But the ones that do remember what I've gone through, you know, it's when I see them again, they're like, wow, you don't even look like the same person, you know, who went through all this. And I'm glad today that I'm alive. I went through it. I'm glad that, you know, God that showed mercy on me, and that I'm here to talk about it. But you do get yourself so low. Nobody understands it. You're very isolated. Even today I struggle. I'm at work, and people look at me and they think that they don't know anything about me, and they think that life is so easy. I don't suffer. I suffer every day. I suffer with brain fog every day. I suffer with motivation and clear thought and dry eyes. I work for younger people, and they look at me like, well, you look good. On the outside, you're fine. You know, what's wrong with you? And I just have to tell them, I'm not that person on the outside. It's just, this is a good mask, you know. It's it's the exterior, but inside I suffer inside this all the time. I have to run to the restroom. I have to give myself breaks. I have to keep telling myself, I'm not stupid. I'm just having a bad day. And, I'm always trying different things just to try and help me in whatever. I'm always having to find things to compensate for the shortcomings that you have. You're almost a different person. And I don't know why, but you're always going to have this handicap, and you just learn to live with those handicaps and get stronger and educate other people and let them know that you're not, that you're not losing it. It's just that, hey, I have a bad day today. And then you just find other ways to cope. And, they don't want to, sometimes they don't want to hear it. I'm tired of hearing your Graves disease, blah, 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 But they don't understand until they've gone through it. And I always tell them, I hope you never do, because people don't understand.
So Susan was one of the first patients who said, you know what? There should be a foundation, there should be a get-together, there should be a group. Some of you guys mentioned during the break. One of the reasons we wanted to have this meeting, not only to celebrate the bike ride and the fundraising, but was to reach out and say, there is a need. This doesn't exist in the Bay Area. And so Susan and others have volunteered to help us, try to put something together that would meet the needs.
Yeah, my eyesight is 100% better, and I had to go through a couple surgeries before it got to that point. I mean, there was the first surgery. I remember I woke up and I was like, oh my God, I can see, this is great. And then within the week, it went back, and I was mortified. I thought, oh my God, and then to find out I had to go through another surgery. But I said, you know what, I have to do this. I got to go through it no matter how fearful, how bad. Whatever treatments or, I was on prednisone, I hated it. My face was like, I looked like a balloon, and my weight ballooned. And you're talking to somebody who's like very self-conscious. But I went through I just said, okay, whatever it's going to take. What mattered to me is if she could just get my vision back. The extra was bonus. When she did all this was the bonus. This is the gravy. But I'm just so glad to be seen again. But one thing I have noticed, that even though I do have this, I still struggle with a lot of brain fog. That's always a constant for me, and I'm trying different things. I recently was told to start taking the ginkgo biloba, whatever. I've started taking it, and it has helped a lot with my energy levels and my mental fog. You just learn to. It's funny. You learn to compensate. For me, I have to write everything down. And I have to give myself permissions. I isolate myself. You have to use a different set of tools. It's like if you lose your limb, you learn to walk with a prosthesis. For us, we have to learn to think and do things a little differently to be productive. Because I know people just kind of sit there and they kind of scratch their head. I was one of those people before. Before all this, I used to look. I'm like, yeah, or whatever. You're just go see the doctor, get fixed, whatever. I had no empathy for them because I never experienced. I was always fit and healthy. But the moment it happened to me, and it seems like, and not only that, but in all areas, I just go, wow. So I don't criticize anymore. I'm not judgmental anymore. Now I tell people, you never know. You never know the day that it happens to be your day, and you go through an experience like this, and then they kind of get it. Then they start understanding. It's like, and ever since then, I have a lot more respect and a lot more empathy for people who are struggling with a physical or mental illness.
I just really wanted to thank you for sharing your story, because I really can identify with it. And like you said about the pain and the things that happened, and I actually was locked up in a mental the ward for whatever that time frame is. That was so traumatic for me, and I could not leave there, so I was held there against my will. And it was just such a traumatic thing, because that's where they categorized me. And I was so afraid in there, because these individuals that were schizophrenic and all this stuff, and so it's the trauma that you go through. And I just really admire your honesty.
Your story, I've met another lady, a jeweler friend of ours, and luckily they spoke to us because they had heard about my story, and they were ready to take their mom and put her in an institution. And she was already pretty bitter at the family because they were really going to take some severe measures. And luckily it took talking to me, and I said, you know what, your mom's not losing it. She's just going through this, take her in. She probably has some thyroid issue going on. And then once they did that, boy, did things change. They finally had, they're like, oh, wow. Because they could have made it really worse for her. And the last 2 years I've seen her, she's a lot better today. But I remember when she first went through it, she was really bitter towards her family because she really resented them. And they made it worse. They kept trying to tell her that she was going crazy. And her husband was like, this is not the woman I married. It's like, no, she's not. She's going through a lot. You need to understand that. And I was lucky that I have a son and a husband that were very supportive. At the time, they were like, what's going on? Because it's nothing like her. But luckily, they had that, I don't know, I think the intuition to know that something's going on and it's not her. And they were a little patient to start off, but then in time, as they got educated, they sort of started my journey, then they started going, okay. And then they learned too how to cope. It's like, don't stress me out, don't do these things, don't do that. And then they started working with me. If I didn't have that support, I think I probably, and I did try twice. Honestly, it got so low, I did try to take my life twice. Like I said, I woke up and I was like, God darn it, I don't want to be here. Today, I don't feel that way. I'm back to normal. I embrace life. I think it's worth living. Even if I had to do it again, I'd do it again. But at the time, nobody knows what you're going through, and you just get it just seems like it's 10 times worse. And you don't see the hope, and you don't see the light at the tunnel. Today people have a lot more resources. 10 years ago, I didn't have those resources. I just know I had this inner voice, like, what the hell is going on with me? I'm not this person. We would go to breakfast, and we would order breakfast. I'd run into the bathroom, and I would sit there for hours, just having anxiety issues. Should I go out there? Should I not? And my husband and my son would be like, what the hell is wrong with her? Where is she? And I'd come out, and they would look at me like, we've been waiting for you. Our food's closed. They didn't understand. I didn't understand it. I just thought I was. And then you go to the doctors, and they're like, well, poor thing. Here, try these vitamins. Go see this specialist, or watch what you're eating, or you want pills for your mental, or we'll send you to somebody. I'm like, no, there's more. There's something going on. I was just stubborn, and that's been my saving grace, and that's been my downfall too. So luckily, I finally found Dr. Kim. She goes, yeah, I get it. I know what you're going through. And then that's when my whole life turned around. And then I said, okay. And I knew that the journey from that point to today was going to be work. It took work because, like I said, the couple of surgeries I had, it didn't come through, and I was like, but I got through it, and I could just say, great. I mean, and the icing to all that is that she even got my face back to normal. I mean, my vision is great today. My face is back to normal. I feel like the old me, but better. But this will always be with me. Graves' disease will always be with you, and that's you're gonna live with it. But you just find ways to cope with it, and friends and people who understand. You start. Joining communities and talking to your friends and people who understand. And
so has your anxiety and depression subsided because of the improvement physically with your vision and your kind of self-esteem in terms of when you look at yourself? Do you think that there's a correlation there?
Yes, definitely.
So are other people experiencing that in terms of, is there a correlation that goes on with the physical and your mental kind of reaction to it? Because I've gotten back to, I think, appearing relatively normal and, attractive and whatever.
Right.
But I still feel the anxiety and kind of the depression. And I said the same thing to my mom the other day. I said, I feel like I should be in an institution.
Right. You will. I think that's something you struggle with all your life. And, and I have to find different outlets, whether it be working out, a hobby. Your mind's probably always racing all the time, anxiety. I just have to find things to keep me engaged and entertained so that I'm not thinking about that. If I'm alone too long, I do notice that, some things will stress me out more than others. And then I just have to learn to just kind of walk away from it.
I find that, trying to figure out, I think exercise is crucial.
Yeah.
I think that I see a lot of people, alcohol, marijuana, whatever it might be, and you want to just reach beyond that. And if I found, even if it's yoga or walking or, it doesn't have to be those bike guys, like I couldn't do that. But just something that, gets you feeling calm. because your brain is never going to be the same as it was. You are always, as you said, you have to think of it as though you broke your arm, and now every time it's about to rain, you can feel your arm ache, because that's what broken arms do. It's the same thing with you. You are forever changed by your thyroid disease. And once you accept it, and you embrace it, and you figure out how to move forward, the question about stress is great. I routinely tell my patients, like we spoke about, choose something else. If your job's making you nuts, choose something else. If you throwing Thanksgiving every year makes you, don't do it. Don't visit that relative that makes you insane. You know, if you're in a bad relationship, maybe this is the time that you need to not be in that relationship,
Right.
because you can't make your life stressless, but you can choose things to make it less bad.
Stressful, yeah.
So thank you very
You're welcome.
much.
Thank
You're
you.
wonderful.
And she is the best doctor.
I think what we're going to do is, Bob, you want to come on up?